Hello friends, Sarah Gaston here, and welcome to another episode of my Facebook Live, the weekly television show where I answer your questions about the art and craft of acting. I'm using my lavalier mic again, so I hope that all goes well. And I just got a strange sort of notice about like your internet connection. So I hope everything's working. I suppose if somebody hops on and says it's not working, they'll be kind enough to let me know. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I have a few different things I want to talk to you about while I wait for you guys to hop on. I can't believe it's been a year, y'all. It's been over a year since this has been going on. Both the pandemic and my Facebook Live. Anyway, so the first thing I think I want to talk to you guys about today is a question I got from a new client, and he's been acting for over 30 years. He has a ton of experience, but he was asking about how much do you do in an audition tape? And I get asked this a lot, so I thought it'd be a great topic for today. And feel free to chime in with questions or anecdotes. So, oh, hello. Okay, thank you, Denise. It must be looking really crazy on camera. Anyway, so here's the thing. When we are putting in an audition tape, or when we're doing something on Zoom, when we're doing, say, a Zoom callback or a Zoom audition, we are not filming the scene. We are auditioning. And so what needs to always be the primary focus is, are we connecting? Are we committed to the role? Are we creating the world? Okay, so this is your actor work. You ask your essential questions, and you prepare the character accordingly, and you then do your audition. So what we have noticed, however, with COVID is that more and more we're getting asked to do things that we didn't do a year ago. For example, this particular actor was saying he had an audition where he was supposed to be like trying on different outfits. And I had an audition recently where I was supposed to be a master mechanic. Okay, like I can check my oil, that's about it. But they wanted me to actually film myself dressed in an outfit that would look like this particular, company, and as if I worked there, and check under my hood and do sort of like maintenance work, right? So I dragged my camera down to my car and set it up and hoped nobody walked by while I was filming myself, checking my transmission fluid and the battery cables and all that kind of stuff. So we are more and more getting asked to do that sort of thing. Now, that's very specific for commercial, okay? So that is something, if they ask you to do all those things, you want to do all those things. Now, part of what's a little odd about that is that now all of a sudden casting directors are in your home. People are in your home, and that's a little uncomfortable, right? So unfortunately, the way the trends go, we kind of have to follow. The other piece of that is that early on in COVID, and we're not really seeing this as much anymore, but they basically wanted to know if you could film the commercial yourself. So we were being asked to do all these things, like be a lighting person and a cinematographer and a director and a camera op and, a set dresser and, a costumer and all this kind of thing, just for the audition, because they needed to know if A, you could do all these things yourself, because we were being so paranoid about COVID, and B, how would it look in your home, right? And I remember at one point I did an audition. It took me like an hour and a half to do. And then they said, well, we really want another person in there. And I'm like, hello, we're supposed to be COVID compliant, but okay. So I refilmed the whole thing with another person because it was a few different setups. And I finally reached out to SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and said, hey, we're getting asked to do things that are way above and beyond what you would normally do on a set. You would show up and you would be in charge of acting, because that's the job that I'm getting paid for. Are there any additional things, like can we get additional fees for this, right? Screen Actors Guild reply was sort of like, well, them's the breaks. We're in a pandemic and this is what's being asked right now. So they had not either chosen to or had the opportunity to consider whether actors should be compensated additionally for having to do all these extra jobs. The other thing around this topic is when you're asked to do a lot of action, people want to know how far they need to go. And again, I really want to emphasize this. They're looking at the acting. They're not looking at, what do you look like when you're climbing out a window? I'll use this as an example. So I auditioned for this role, and I had been abducted by this person who was holding me hostage. And at a certain point, I drug this person, as in give them something to make them go to sleep, not drug them, which I think is poor grammar anyway. Anyway, I gave them something to make them go to sleep, and I climbed out the window, right? Well, I'm not going to climb out any windows because I'm not going to climb out any windows. There's not a safe window to climb out of where I live. So what I did do is I did all the acting as if, oh, ha, 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 I've got my captor, passed out, and now I'm going to leave. And so I just basically climbed up a chair, right, as if I were escaping. So that is a perfect example of how we can suggest the action for an audition, for a taped audition, without having to, hey, you're filming me, climb out the window, which could be actually quite risky. In fact, I did book it, and they fussed at me on set because I climbed out the window and then I just climbed back in because it was quicker than going around the house. And they're like, don't do that, be careful, just walk around. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's just a little fun story. Thank you, Denise. I don't know, you guys, I don't know what my shirt is doing. It has little tiny stripes, so if it's doing something funky, I don't know what that is. It's happening, through the magic of the interweb. But this is actually this is an excellent reason why when you audition, they don't want you to wear stripes or patterns, because sometimes in video it'll do this sort of thing and everyone thinks they're tripping. So hello, David Roy Grant. So no, Carlos, you may be high, but I don't think my boss is speaking directly to you. So anyway, it's literally just like a striped shirt. So I think it's very funny that that's what people are focusing on. Anyway. So yeah, and again, so like say you have to be in a fist fight with somebody, or somebody grabs you. Again, we don't expect you to fall to the ground, and we don't expect anyone to sort of stage slap you or anything like that. But you can have a reaction like, like somebody struck you without having to do, and fall to the ground and do some like melodramatic thing. Because again, they're looking for your acting and your reacting. They're not looking for you to actually film the entire scene in the audition. So those are my thoughts and my opinions. And I like to say your mileage may vary. Okay, you may have a different experience, but that has been my experience with these types of auditions, especially since COVID. The other thing I want to address, okay, the other thing Denise is saying, it's psychedelic. The other thing, I'll know never to wear the shirt again, on Zoom or on whatever this is. I don't know what this is technology. It's beyond me. The other thing is, I lost my train of thought because people are so entranced by whatever my shirt's doing on your end. I don't know what it was. Anyway, it was about auditioning for commercial. Oh yeah, I know what it was. Because I've noticed this a lot when I've been on Zoom, either teaching my class or coaching folks, or I've been doing some corporate role-playing work on Zoom. Be really aware as actors of your Zoom protocol. And that is not just like, don't have your spouse walking naked in the background, although that's something you really need to consider. Stuff like that does indeed happen. But be aware of your lighting. I have this little ring light that holds my phone and that gives me a little, lighting from behind the camera. I mean, it wasn't expensive, right? But I'll see people and they look like they're sitting in the dark. I was doing a Zoom workshop with the groundlings over the weekend, and she finally had to say, can you put a light behind you, like a lamp? Because this person looked like they were sitting in the dark. They'll have like a really messy background, or they won't have a backdrop, but they'll put on one of those really distracting virtual backgrounds that aren't stable, and that they kind of, do weird pixelations, probably like what my top is doing, but they'll do weird pixelations sort of around the figure. or they're down like this. One of the things Karen Mariama made us do in our Zoom Groundlings class was be as unflattering as possible, just as part of the gag of like doing, a character on Zoom. And that was really funny because I'm so conscious of not doing anything that's like you can see my nose hairs or anything like that. So be aware of that. Be aware of your lighting. Be aware of your framing. Because here's the thing, you don't want to have your Zoom callback or, God forbid, Zoom filming, because I have filmed stuff on Zoom, during the pandemic. You don't want to be sitting there on the day and have them going, oh, your lighting doesn't work, or oh gosh, can you wear something different because your shirt's doing crazy psychedelic things, or do you have, you don't want to have the pressure, the added pressure of like acting and doing all the things you got to do in a callback or a filming, on the day, and then not have anyone, and then have that be the focus, and I'm sorry, have that not be the focus because you are freaking out about all this background stuff. So clean up your Zoom house and make sure you are super ready for that Zoom audition or callback. And Denise, I know you know what I'm talking about because you have been in the film world. So anyway, I am waiting for, I've just been chatting away about my stuff, so I would love to hear any questions you have. I'm going to double check the comments on my computer because it's a little bit easier. I did remember to do not disturb today. Okay, everyone is obsessed with my shirt. I don't know what to tell you people. I'm not going to take it off because, my lavalier mic is attached. Anyway, so if you guys don't have any questions, I certainly will not keep you because, as you know, I believe that time is our most valuable and non-renewable resource, so I don't want to waste yours. Although I could wax on about, I could talk about opposites. Let me go ahead and talk about opposites real quick while we're already on here. We, in the Tuesday night class, we are taking on Michael Shirtless's guideposts from his classic Audition. I mean, it's called Audition is the book, and if you don't have a copy and you're an actor, well, something's remiss and you got to get on Amazon and do something about that. So it's a fantastic book, but one of the things he talks about are these 12 guideposts. People say they're 12 guideposts, but they're actually 13, so I don't know, baker's dozen. Anyway, and one of the topics is opposites, and so we were tackling opposites last night. Thank you, Carlos, for validating what we talked about last night in class. Yeah, so we were talking about opposites, and it's something actors really struggle with because we think acting is somehow different than living. Okay, and that there are all these rules that have to do with acting that somehow don't apply to life, or somehow when we're acting we're something different, or we're doing something different than we are as human beings. And so one of the traps is that we take out the complexity of what it is to be human and make everything super straightforward, which just really isn't how we operate. If we were that logical, we would be Dr. Spock. Oh, maybe that's offensive in the Trek world. I think it's supposed to be that. Anyway, I apologize, Trekkies. But there was some confusion about that. So I just want to clarify, opposites the way I understand it and the way that I utilize it as part of creating a character. And that is the conjunction of two conflicting desires at the same time. Okay? So the easiest example, and we've seen this a million times in film and television and theater, is when you're attracted to somebody who's not appropriate for you. And it could be because they're bad for you. It could be because one or both of you are involved with somebody else. I recently started watching Call the Midwife, and so sucked into that show. It's really embarrassing. And but one of the main characters, she has this guy, and he's a friend, and she's not really in love with him, but he's really sweet to her and he loves her, and so then he goes off and finds somebody else, and then all of a sudden she doesn't really want him to marry her, this other girl, because well, but now I kind of like him, and so there's this inner conflict between wanting two things at the same time. And really the truth is, a lot of times we are that conflicted. And I'm going to give you an example. If you are watching this, you're most likely an actor. I do get non-actors who watch this because they're interested in the psychology of what actors do. But, oh, Carmina! Oh, I love you too. Hello. But a lot of times, if you're an actor, how many times, if you've been doing this for any period of time, how many times have you thought, I'm out, I'm done, I'm going to be an accountant? Okay, I always use accountant because I can't think of anything I'd rather do less than accounting. I think I'd rather dig ditches, honestly. But we have a love-hate relationship with the arts because it is the most rewarding thing and it is the least rewarding thing all at the same time or at different times, right? And so you can love it and just have it in your bones and it can be such a strong part of your identity, and yet the rejection gets to you and the dry spells get to you and the sometimes really catastrophically unfair treatment gets to you. And so there's a part of you that loves it and wants to say it, and there's a part of you that wants to take a hike, right? So that's a great example of opposites. And if you can find ways, it's not, there for every character. If you've got an under 5 and you're like, here's your wine, Mr. Scorsese, you're probably not having much of an inner conflict as the waiter, right? But it is really a delicious opportunity for you to A, make a less obvious choice, and B, to just make a more interesting choice, because then we're wondering what is going on there, and sometimes it's supported by the text and sometimes it's not. I was working with a woman yesterday who's auditioning for actually a stage play, and she is auditioning for the role of Queen Elizabeth, and as in the present Queen Elizabeth. And she, we were looking for ways to make her a little more human and a little more vulnerable, because the tendency in there is to be like, this is what queens do, and I'm going to play a queen, and that's predictable and it's not terribly interesting. And so what we were looking for is, how can she need to be all this, right? Because that is what you inherit as a royal, unless you're like Meghan and Harry and you peace out. But that is what you inherit, okay? When you inherit a title like that. So how can you be all this and also yearn for something else on the inside? Because I don't know about you, I think one of the reasons I became an actor is because there's so many different lives I want to live, and I don't have enough time in this lifetime to live them all. And so I find ways to have little smaller versions of living that life, and just like, what would it be like if, Anyway, that's my 2 cents, but it's not 2 cents, it's more like 30. So A, inflation, and B, because I tackled 2 really juicy topics today. All right, I'm gonna scour for questions one more time, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. While I am wrapping up, I would like to say that I always encourage you guys to sign up for my YouTube channel, because I send out a free video pretty much every week. Yes, Denise, we do love juicy topics. I send out a new video almost every week with some sort of tip or trick around the business and craft of acting. I will say I was remiss in sending out a video last week. I had emergency retina surgery, and that was unexpected, and that took me a little bit off course. So if you're expecting a video last week and you didn't get one, my apologies, that is the reason. So luckily everything went well, and the old eye is clearing up and I look a little less like I'm in a bar fight. I also encourage you to sign up for my email list, because there are things that I share with my email list that I don't share anywhere else. Sometimes it's an article that's really topical about what we're up to. I sent out one recently about the new trend in headshots. I sometimes send out audition information. If I get an audition notice that comes my way and I see that there's an opportunity for my students, I'll put that in there. And if you are interested in studying with me further, if you go to my website, www.sarahgaston.com, I have some Zoom offerings. I have started doing in-person workshops again. I'm going to have another one in April. We just had a blast doing the comedy and improv workshop a couple of weeks ago. And I also have some virtual courses. One, if you need to learn how to cry on cue, and another one that is a super crazy deep dive into analyzing a script. And the reason I love that course, and to me that's sort of my flagship course, is like I offer everything that you need so that if you walk to set and you're the lead, or if you have an audition, no matter what, you're going to be prepared, because it covers freaking all the bases, let me tell you. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate the compliment, and it's not just like, oh, hey, your shirt's super trippy. Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that. Anyway, since you guys have no other questions, it looks like I just want to say I appreciate you joining. And for those of you who are going to watch this later, thank you in advance for watching. This is always here for you. So believe me, during the week, if you have other questions, things that come to mind, please let me know. Send me an email, or carrier pigeon or smoke signals, whatever you got to do. Let me know, because I'm here every Wednesday to answer your questions about the business and craft of acting. Anyway, love you guys. Have a fantastic day. Bye.